Welcome, Cordell. It's a real honour actually to have you here today. So you talk very, very much. A lot of what you've been doing is about transforming pain into purpose. Yeah. Can you enlighten us as to the moment that you really felt your purpose, that that moment you'd made that transformation?
That's a really good question. And I think for me, where I really decided to, not necessarily the pain part, but where I found purpose, it was more out of, it was out of pain as well, because I was trying to get out of a kind of environment and surroundings that I didn't want to quite be in when I was younger, right? And the way I'd done that was by immersing myself into personal development. Right, so reading books. A college tutor gave me a book. He saw potential in me.
Yeah.
Gave me the first kind of personal development book I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Great book. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Talking a long time ago, all right? We were talking like when I was about 16 years old.
Really?
So I got into quite young, but then that led me on to more reading, such as Think and Grow Rich, The Secret, watching The Secret, the film. And then I just thought, wow, like instead of being a product of my environment, because my environment wasn't the best, I want to become a product of my mind.
Yeah.
And I just thought if I could change and reprogram my mind, I'll be able to definitely kind of escape my environment in a sense. And that's what I was able to do. So I kind of went into that, and then I decided eventually, I want to share this with others, with people that were like me from my environment. In schools, young kids that looked like me, that dressed like me, that spoke like me, the ones that had the potential, but that potential wasn't getting nurtured in the education system, right? So I decided to go into motivational speaking and creating work for young people, and so that's where that came from. It wasn't necessarily, I didn't know I was going down that way.
Yeah.
But I done that out of a necessity of how do I escape my environment, and it was through reading. And then that's how I kind of got into my journey.
So what do you think made you different? Because you've been very open about your childhood in the environment that you grew up in. And for a lot of kids, as you say, they have the potential, but they go down a different path. What made you different?
A couple of things, really. I think in school, I knew I had potential in me. I knew there was something there. Even the teachers knew I knew it from a young age. But I just didn't get on well in the school education system. It was one hat fits all. That hat just didn't suit me.
Yeah.
Right? I know this one does. This helped. But for me, it was like, okay, how can I take situations like this where everyone's against me and just not make people's opinions of me determine my reality? The teacher saying like you're a nuisance, you're a ringleader, you've got foggy attitudes, all of this stuff, like these really, unfulfilling prophecies that get into me, right? How do I turn this and use it as my driving force? And I think I knew I was different when my mum sent me to the Caribbean to live with my grandparents, right? I wouldn't say she sent me there as punishment. It was more as she wanted me to see a different life, right? Now, when we think of the Caribbean, we think about sunny beaches, rice and peas, and pina colada, right? Yeah. But for me, my reality of it was living with my grandparents who were strict, right? Strict with measures. Also going to an education system where they were really strict, right? Like they used to still kind of get a beating of the cane over there back in the time I went, right? Which I did a couple of times. That absolutely, that was a mind-blowing experience. But not just that, seeing kids over there and people with nothing, with a lack of resources, but still be very resourceful with what they had. That just shifted my mind, right? It was like, okay, and then that's when I realized, wow, like what, like I've had a lot of opportunities. I can turn things around.
Yeah.
I saw the kind of drive that they had in them with nothing, that it inspired me to want to kind of go on and do great things. So that was a massive turning point. And at that time, I didn't want to go. Like, no, I didn't want to leave.
No.
And I'm born here, raised here, my friends are here. But my mum was like, no, you better get on that plane, boy. And she sent me across the Atlantic Ocean to leave.
Yeah.
Some people would say it's not a punishment because it's the Caribbean.
But the thing is, we know it from getting on a plane and going on holiday for 2 weeks, don't we? There's always something behind everything. I mean, I actually think your story's amazing. I know because you've struggled with dyslexia as well. So you had a lot of things that were kicking back against you. And still you rose, Cordell. Still you rose. And I think that's amazing. And I when I was at university, we had people come to talk to us about from YOP, the youth offending. Yeah. And I remember them saying exactly what you've just said there, that there were so many kids that went through the system that were so damn clever. So damn clever. And it was being used in the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, the education system for me, I don't like to disregard it and say it's bad.
Yeah.
I do believe lack of funding or the teachers are under it. The teaching, one teacher trying to manage 30 kids in a class, right? With all different learning styles and behaviors. It's tough for teachers, right? But definitely we need to learn how to see potential more and nurture it.
Yeah.
Rather than calling me the ringleader, why don't give me some responsibility that I've got in this classroom, right? Rather than saying I'm just a chatterbox, right? Like nurture that communication, because now I'm a speaker and get paid to talk. How ironic is that? I used to get kicked out of school for talking all the time, right? So what do you see with the kids that they have, and how can you give every negative as a positive, right? Hilarity is very, very important, right? And understanding that dual nature, like, well, how can you turn what that skill is that you might find quite disruptive in the classroom into something positive? And I think if we take more time to see kids from that point of view, we definitely, build a lot of great leaders.
What do you think needs to change in the education system? Because there's so many people can get easily disregarded in the education system as classed with they're being naughty. What are we missing here? What are we not seeing?
I think we need to bring in more lessons, life skills, real life skills, right? And I'm not just talking about, one time I got invited down to 10 Downing Street, right? And the education secretary was there, and I had a conversation. I was just like, I told him a bit about my journey, and I told him, like, you need to start changing things. And I said, what's your kind of opinion on it? And he goes, we got to up more skills like cooking classes and stuff like that, which, listen, is all good, but that wasn't the response that I was looking for, right?
No.
Like, we need more like conflict resolution,
Yeah.
as how to build actual authentic relationships, how to deal and manage your emotions, right? Personal development, the mindset, all these things, like how to like values is important, like understanding what your values are and how you can use those values in the world, in society, right? Understanding people's beliefs and how you can see things from their perspective. All these things we don't learn. We don't learn nothing about human behavior or psychology in school. And I think if we can teach young kids from early ages about humans, how to interact with them and life in general.
One thing for me, I never got taught was finances, and that credit rating, and that you needed a credit card. You needed to kind of like get in debt to then improve your credit score. And I actually ended up going bankrupt at quite a young age because I wasn't I kind of knew the value of money to a certain degree. My dad paid things and I had to pay him back. But I think if I had a bit more education in school around the money kind of thing, how to build up your credit rating properly, that would have really been supportive for me. Yeah, these things that you're saying, I just think they're so important than other things that were perhaps being taught that are not quite relevant.
Yeah, I think like financial literacy is so important, right? Understanding how to manage money. It's definitely something that we need. And I believe, and this is my belief, it might not be everybody's, but we're trying to build workers inside a system that the system's broken now, right? We're not building future leaders and real future innovators and thinkers, right? And I think we try to keep our young people in a box because that just works for the system and the narrative, right?
Absolutely. You've tapped my nail right on the head there, Cordell. And that's it. The reality is we want people in debt. The system wants people in debt. They don't want to teach you how to manage your money because it services the system.
Yeah.
by being in debt. And I read something recently, because I can't bear labels. I think we're all beautiful and wonderful in our own way, and we all have a skill, and that skill needs to be nurtured, you know? And it was take the kids labelled with ADHD out, teach them life skills, take them into the forest, take them into the environment, and there are your leaders.
Yeah.
There's your leaders.
That's it, right? That's it. I love that. I love that. And it's like you kind of looking at what their values are and nurturing that.
Yeah.
I like, for example, one of my cousins, right? He wasn't doing well with his grades at school, and his mom was like, "Listen, there's always playing the PlayStation, right?" And I thought he said, "Can you spend some time doing game off that PlayStation, right?" Like that's what we think about our kids. But when I actually looked at it, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I was playing with him," and then I was trying to learn and figure out what he was doing on PlayStation, and it was hard. There was a lot of thought at wedding to bleeding that game, right? So then I thought, wow, we must be missing the trick here, right? So then I said, okay, let's look at jobs that you could do. Probably like you enjoy playing games. Like, what could you do as a career like that? He said, oh, well, I could start a gaming club. I could be a gaming designer. I might create a magazine regarding games, or a YouTube, for example. And then when I started talking about these things, you could see he's starting to get excited, right? So I'm tackling to his values. And then it's like, okay, well, let's look at your education right now, like maths and English. How do those link back to, these kind of jobs? And he was like, okay, well, I need a certain level of maths to be able to design these games. I need to know how to write codes and stuff like that. So English and maths started to become a priority for him. And then he started to increase his skill increase like his grades in those subjects, because we linked the curriculum to his values rather than to say, get off the gate, or start watching Netflix. That could be the next director or movie star, right? Yes. So we just need to nurture their actual value.
But for people out there who are struggling with their kids that are not fitting into this system, which is, I think, is becoming more prevalent, as we're kicking back against the system. I mean, 2025 is the year for that, isn't it? What advice would you give to those parents that are in despair almost?
Kids, or even for adults, right? Because purpose is something that a lot of people struggle with, by that lack of clarity. And it can make you feel it can make life feel a bit distorted, a bit grey. But I always say that purpose isn't outside of you, it's already within you. The problem is we try to take on society's values and make them our own, right? And we get brought up in the value system from our parents and their values, and we try to adopt them. But the questions that I would say you have to ask yourself is, look at the common denominator when you ask yourself, what do I like doing in my spare time? What lights me up? What are those conversations that I have with friends or family that I just can have for hours? There's certain conversations that you book, right? And there's certain conversations you haven't even listened to what the person said, right? And you're trying to catch up. Yeah. You switch up. But there's some conversations, there's subjects that you just love to speak about. Then you got to think about, where do you spend some of your money, right? Like, other than, your basic bills, but where do you spend your money? Is it on books? Is it on clothes, right? And then when you could start, if you ask yourself a bunch of questions, I actually have a list of questions that I ask my clients before they work with me, right? And when we start to see what the common denominator is, it starts to show up. We say, okay, that's your purpose, because you're already living it, right? It's already there inside of you. You're just not recognizing it. But now what we've got to do is, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just a hobby. It's not a bit. Yeah. But no, you can actually turn that hobby into something great. Yeah. It can still be a multi-million-pound idea, right? Yeah. And if you love watching films, if you spend a lot of money going to the cinemas, then maybe you should do something in that sector. But now you've just got to figure out the career path to go and get it, right? So purpose is already there.
It is. And society is constantly pushing us outside. Again, it's the system doesn't want us to find our, the power that we hold within us.
We're so powerful, what we can actually create and what we can show within ourselves. It's incredible. Yeah. Obviously, you get to work with a lot of people. You're inspiring lots of people. Have you got any stories you can share with us of perhaps somebody that you've inspired and worked with?
I work with clients. I got into motivational speaking when I was about 20, probably like 22 years old, right? I'm like 33 now. So yeah, about 10 years, right? And my first thought was to go back into schools and education and work with young kids, right? So inspiring the next future leaders for me was just, that was massive on my purpose list, right? And I was going into schools, I was working with young kids, and to see where some of them are now today. Like obviously it's been a long time. So some of the early ones and seeing the careers that they were in, and they might stop me when I'm out, or they'll message me on Instagram like, listen, if it wasn't for that assembly that you done, like I wouldn't have been here. There was one girl that messaged me, and she was like, listen, I just went to America, and based on your talk, I just won a scholarship for a college over there to do dancing. And it's just little messages like that, right?
It's amazing.
People have been on to my events and they've said, what you gave me has changed my kid's life.
Yeah.
And I always say, sharing your story, your truth, that's a superpower, because we all have stories. I'm not no better or amazing than anyone. It's just that I share my truth and I share my story. But we all have stories inside of us that's going to inspire, right? Your vibe will create your tribe, and your message. So it doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter about your challenges. Use those, because there's people right now that might be really down in the dumps, or even that worst case scenario, they might want to take their own life.
Yeah.
It's your story, and only you that can go out there and help them. So I always say, by keeping stories within yourself and not sharing your truth, you actually could be quite selfish, because there's lives that could be saved based on you being out there. And you might just think, oh no, it's only me, I'm little and I'm small, but no, And there's probably conversations that you've had that you don't even know that you've had that have saved someone's life. That little thought-provoking thought or bit of information that you gave them to say, you know what, like, really inspired by that conversation I've had.
I love that, because I think people do think, don't they? Well, it's me. Who wants to listen, to what I have to say? I know I've been very guilty of that emotion and feeling that way. And you're right, we have all got a story inside us. So something I'm really interested in is we've established people's purpose. How do you manage people's resistance and fear? Because that can be so ingrained and such a core belief in people, especially when they've grown up with everything against them. And this is what amazes me about you, how you've kind of pushed through that. How do you deal with people that know where they want to go, but just can't get there?
That's a really good question. So, like, a lot of people, the natural thing that our brain tells us is, it's trying to keep us safe, right? So it will always give you self-doubt or try to talk you out to grow. First of all, we have to change our self-talk. We have to try and learn as much as we can to reprogram. Because whatever you ask your brain, it's going to give you the answer, right? So if you ask your brain, why me? Why have I failed, or why has this happened? The brain's going to get answered. But if you do the complete opposite and the polar opposite to that and say, where's the opportunities? How can I improve? Where are my strengths? The brain's going to find the answers to those as well, right? But what I like to do with most people is help them recognize that what they're trying to do, whether they need more confidence, we look at other areas in their lives where they've been confident, right? And we make them be aware of those events, so they can see, well, actually, you know what? I've done it in other areas, so I've got it there. I just need to apply it in this lane, right? It's like if you see Beyonce on stage, you might say, oh my God, Beyonce, look at her. She's amazing. Well, just so confident. Look at her. I could never be like that.
Yeah.
But you might show that in a different area. It might be with your kids, it might be with your family, it might be, in the gym, wherever it is, you've got that confidence, you've got that level of, that level of expertise in another area. So it's just about how do you translate it? Because sometimes we can look at people and we put them on a pedestal, put ourselves in the pit, right? But what we've got to do is, we have to be balanced at all times, because no one's better than you and no one's below you either. Any trait that you feel like you don't have and that you disowned, you have just in a different form. And you just need to find what that form is and recognize your truth.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of kind of techniques and, things that I do regarding that when I do work with some people.
It's actually really simple when you think about it, because it's just a thought, isn't it, really? It's just a thought. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're in it, it's actually not. It feels tougher, but it actually is really simple. I just find it really mind-blowing when you think of it like that.
Yeah. In its simplicity, it is. I always think that the difficulty for some people is when we've got all of those ingrained beliefs, those core beliefs that are in our subconscious. And I'm interested on, how you feel about this. And then where we know consciously that, let's say, something's not right, and then we have that little chimp, don't we, in our subconscious that's going, no, hello, Paula, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
You can't do that, How do you manage that?
Yeah. I call them ants,
Do you?
or the four ants. I call them ants. Like, I don't know if have you ever gone to a hot country and had ants on you?
Yes.
They have.
Oh, no, but yeah.
And you just itch and you just want to get them off you, right? So I call them ants, and it's like automatic negative thoughts. That's the abbreviation I call it.
Like,
Does take consistency, but every time those ants come up, you have to stamp them, because like that's what you do to an animal. You'd stamp on it, like, well, not the nice ants, but the red one. But we do have to continually come up with the alternative and the polar opposite, right? Always question your thoughts and always see what the polar opposite. And you have to always, you're like, oh, that's not true, right? And then if we go back into events where you have shown confidence, where you've took action, where you've been fearless, because there is always times that you've done that, right? We just need to remember, we need to anchor those times to the present, right? Because if you can look back and they say, oh, well, I've done this before, so this is just my mind, me, and trying to without like you have to talk to yourself. It is because it is always it's constantly. It's about and listen, I might do mindset coaching, I do public speaking coaching. There's people that are mindset experts, but every single level of life that you reach, there's another layer of disbelief or self-doubt, right? It doesn't stop, but we have to learn how to manage it more than
And it's not being afraid of it, isn't it? It's not and do you know what? You've just done something for me here, Cordell, and that is, and hopefully for you guys at home, because this is really important, because these thoughts, these ants become so big, but the minute you say ants, they're reduced. I'm using that one. And they're reduced, aren't they? They're just ants. And actually, we get so afraid of it. And that's when we turn to drink, or that's when we turn to drugs, or all of these things that we do to get rid of those uncomfortable feelings. But when you're comfortable enough to sit with your ants, feel the itch. Yeah, feel the itch. Go on.
No, it's so true. And it's funny that you say that about the pictures, because it is all just pictures.
Yeah.
It's like phobia, right? Like people that are scared of spiders, right? And well, I was scared of spiders, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I didn't like spiders, but my 3-year-old has made me completely have to not be scared of spiders.
Yeah.
But she just gets the frozen men around us. We create pictures that's like someone that's got a phobia of spiders. It's like a really terrible image, right? If we start looking at that and we pretend the spider's in a disco with some shoes on its 8 legs. And I'm learning at the moment. I'm not a practitioner or anything, but I'm learning a little bit NLP for these, just to understand the depths of the mind even a little bit.
Yeah.
I love learning.
Yes.
I'm very interested in everything. Because we've been wired this way, we have to learn how to rewire and reprogram, right? You have to kind of unlearn and relearn. And it can be happening. It doesn't need to be, we don't need to be like, oh, well, I'm 30 now or 40 now or 50 now or whatever, and think, oh, this is just the way life is. No.
Thoughts that fire together, wire together.
It is so true. And we have to do the work.
Yeah.
Like and listen, as I definitely have setbacks at times. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it, there's still habits that I'm working on, but like, just keep recognizing it's okay and just keep going, because one of my mentors showed me, right, I think there's over 2,000 characteristic traits in the dictionary, right, like personal traits. And what he made me do was go through a lot. I didn't go through all of them, but go through a lot of the traits, and then you need to own every single trait, right? As much as you're confident, also cocky.
Yes.
As much as you're nice, there's times when we can be a bit of a prick.
We call
Yeah.
yeah.
We can own every single trait. If we own every trait, we then kind of can be not judgmental to anyone else, right? Because we judge others quite a lot. Say, oh, this person's that, this person's this. But actually, we own that trait that we're saying we don't like, but we just own it in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm very supportive, right? But Monopoly on Christmas Eve, mate, I turn into a monster. Do you know how I feel? And this is the beauty of the duality of life. Everything has its polar opposite. And if we can really believe that, you know, we can never be too infatuated and we can never be too depressed either. We just need that balance. And balance is where the peace of the Lord is, you know? I do that getting me like, I don't like.
I love it.
We call it your shadow, working on your shadow side of yourself, which is really important that we honor those parts of ourselves like jealousy, you know, that selfishness, and you know, we have to embrace all those parts of the self, because you'll find that people that you meet will mirror those aspects back to you that you need to work on as well. So
Absolutely. Do you know, I think we talk about this a lot, and this is something that we've learned doing this podcast, actually, and speaking to different people. It's been amazing, hasn't it? It's that, you know, I think when you talk about spirituality, everyone goes, wah, and thinks it's this unicorns and fairy dust. What the fuck? Sorry for swear. You know, we can swear on our podcast because I'm a bit, but I'm just... But the reality is, I believe, how can we move forward unless we take the whole of who we are? And that whole of who we are is our dark side as much as the light side. And when I think about that, I always think of the infinity, and that balance that you're talking about, that settling point, that peaceful point, is that bit in the middle where you encompass all aspects of who you are. And the reality is, let's face it, our biggest learnings and our biggest transformations are done in the dark side of who we are.
And it's that silence in that side.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I always think that when you try to just own all the good parts, that's where you see all these like successful people or celebrities that just have breakdowns, because it's stressful to keep on.
Yeah.
And you know, just on the polar opposite, if all you do is think about how the negative, the bad parts of me, you'll just be depressed, right? So where is the natural order? It's in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
In the middle, and like you said, only both of us.
Yeah.
It's the best place to be. And when you can do that, honestly, it's just like everything just...
It is. It is. It's been our biggest learning, hasn't it?
massive.
Yeah.
This year has
Yeah.
owning our shadow parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What is spirituality to you?
No, that's a really good question. What is spirituality to me? I grew up in a household where my mum was Christian, my dad was Muslim, right? So they loved each other, like totally not. But you know, I was always kind of fight. I'd go to like Sunday school with the Quran. The teacher would be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Now I was literally confused, for example, and so I thought spirituality was to do with religion, but as I'm getting older, I'm like, no, religion is more a way of how people live their life, right? Spirituality is, I think for me, it's different for different people. But for example, like in business, right? I always say, like, business is an act on spirituality, right? And hear me out. Why I say that is because in order to build a business, you've got to put a lot of love, a lot of time and care into it. And when you produce like a product or a service, you know, it's going to help people for the better good, right? And that might be, that's still like, do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
There can still be a spiritual
Absolutely.
into that.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like it can be different. It can be different to different people. But for me personally, I think it's just being okay with self. And again, just I always go back to balance and finding peace and love within, right? But the way we kind of express that and practice it can be coming to different forms for different people. So I think everyone can have their own meaning with it, right? I don't think we should look at anybody's way of the way they are spiritual and say, oh, that's not good, right? It's just different for different people, right? As long as it's worthwhile for them, I suppose.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And the one thing that I am really fascinated by, but have never, maybe in my next life, is theology, because the reality is, fundamentally, what's at the root of all spirituality is loving kindness. That's at the root of it. Forget all of the extremists and the people that, it being taken out of context. That's what it is, isn't it? And that loving kindness is directed to yourself, accepting the duality or the polarity of who we are, and being kind, and integrity and intention, and like you say, it's an energy exchange. If you put love and intention into your business, that's spirituality.
That's it. Yeah, I do believe that. And I think religion is it's a difficult topic and subject, because everyone has their values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing as well, like the clash of values can be really bad as well, because like that's how wars are created and things start, right? But I think like religion is more the way of life. It's more like you have a certain way that you want to live, and that's the way you want to live it. Well, I don't personally believe that we should look at any religion and be like, that's bad or that's not.
No, exactly.
Right? If that's the way they live their life, that's where they live life. I think spirituality is, like you said, it's an energy.
Yeah.
Right? And energy is, it's wholeness. It's transferable, right? I have looked a little bit into it, and I do want to delve more into like the quantum type side of things. Oh yeah, I can see you. It'd be there.
Yeah.
I am looking into, people like a bit more into Joe Dispenza, Phantom on one of his workshops next year, hopefully, God willing. So there's I'm still on my journey.
Yeah.
I'm loving every moment of it.
Yeah. But I mean, you've been practicing spirituality since you were a kid. It just depends on the label that you have attached to it, doesn't it?
Well, it's the law of attraction. When I watched The Secret at a young age, I started to kind of think, there's something more than just the flesh, than the body, right? There's the count in the ether, right? And that was quite thought-provoking for me.
Yeah.
And I love the law of attraction, but I have a balance to it. I love it, and there's parts like
Yeah.
People generally, if we met, they could sit down and just think about a pink Lamborghini, and I'll get a pink Lamborghini. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at it from a neuroscience point of view, we have something in our mind called the reticular activating system, right?
Yeah.
Of the RAS system.
Yeah.
And with the RAS system, it's pretty much what you think about quite intently and has such an intentional force. Your brain, your subconscious can't process every bit of information that's around you, right? Or else we'll have an overload, right? We'll have a breakdown. So it has to filter through. And what that RAS system is it's filtering your most dominant thought. So if you think dominantly about something, you're going to see it, right? Like if you think about cars and, you probably see a car that you like, and then you haven't brought the car yet, but then you start going everywhere and start seeing a car, and you're thinking, well, how am I seeing it? It's just that your mind now knows that's and you got an emotional attachment to that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a science behind it, rather than it be just kind of like fairy and fluffy. There was actually a science behind it. That just can't take on everything. So it puts in your conscious mind the most important things.
Yeah.
Socially attached to you. So so a brain hack is, whatever you value, whatever you want, keep it at the forefront of you. Do visualize it, think about it, put it on your phone screen, because it will show up. It might not show up necessarily as the physical product. It might show up in an opportunity or somebody else that you might hear a conversation, but your mind's now listening out for those conversations.
Exactly, isn't it?
Yeah, I do believe in it. It's just from more of a scientific point of view rather than.
Well, yeah, it's really, really interesting. You say that, because the quantum absolutely fascinates me, and my history. I over the years had had issues with mental health problems, and so I wasn't prepared to go into what people call spirituality without going in the scientific back door, which was really important to me. So, funnily enough, Joe Dispenza was the man that really changed everything for me, and looking at energy, but looking at the quantum, looking at energy from I looked at crystals actually, and the vibration and frequency of crystals, and why they're used in radios, why Hewlett Packard was using them, because it made it tangible, it made it scientific, and our RAS is exactly that energy at work. Because you're tuned in, your RAS has said, we'll keep it in your conscious brain because that's important. It's what you focus on the most. Therefore, you create the energy to back that up. And then energy attracts energy. And ding, there's our pink, was it Lamborghini?
We need to be intentional. I think that's if anyone can take a word into 2026, it's intention.
Yeah.
Because where you put your focus and your energy, right, those things are going to show up in life, right? So we have to be intentional and start giving our brain some direction, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's setting the goal or just set the goal, break it down to the smallest milestone of the daily habits that you can do, right? Because your brain will find the quickest and easiest way possible. It would continually search the environment to help you. And I know that because I've done it. I wanted to be a speaker, right? And I was, an international speaker. I just came back from Poland the other day speaking. And these were dreams that I once had, right? I once had on the bosom board. Aligning myself with like amazing people, which I've done. Lionel Richie, Richard Branson, the list can go on, right? And these were all things I want on my vision board, right? How does that boy from Mitchell's Park Road, from Stetchard, inner city Birmingham, kicked out of school, no qualifications, end up with an award-winning changemaker award from King Charles, right? How does that happen? And for me, it's intention.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've actually answered one of my questions.
Yeah.
Yes. What's been your biggest achievement and manifestation? But I think you just wrapped it up, unless there was anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, rather than the necessarily the accolades, that I think for me it was just truly being happy with being and doing things that I love to do, right? That was always my kind of my perfect, right? How can I share and inspire and ideally make it a lifestyle as well? How can I get paid to do what I love? And I've been able to do that now, and it's definitely in a good one. I've still got a long way to go. I still mess up, still self-doubt, the might still come up, right? Yeah, it's the journey. So anyone that's out there that's struggling right now, that find themselves in that dark place, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And actually, what you've got to do, like I said, right, you have to try to control the language. What are you telling yourself? Rather than say, why me? Why now? Why is this happening? How is this serving me? What's the message? What's the beauty that's going to come from this? How is this making me stronger? You just flick the questions, right? And then your brain's going to find the answers. And then that's how you can take ourselves out of that darkness.
We need to flip the script.
Flip the script. That's another one. That deserves a high five. Come on. And I've got one more. I've got another one. Keep your arms up. Where intention goes, energy flows.
I do love this. And, one of my kind of darkest times that I had recently, it was like 5 years ago. My mum, she was in the Caribbean. And so when I got kicked out of school, my mum sent me to the Caribbean. She came as well with my little.
Yeah.
I left about a year and a half after, but she stayed to look after my grandparents, and then she ended up having a career over there as a guidance counselor with schools, and she was an amazing, great thing. So she was always supporting. I saw her like once a year. She didn't get to see in person a lot of the achievements that I had, but a lot of it was for her. Like in terms of that was my driving factor, because when I left there at like 15 years old, and I was in the Caribbean, when I left there and I went on that plane to come back to the UK, and she stayed there, that was my reason why. I was like, listen, I've got to turn things around for that lady there. I've got to make sure that I make her proud, right? So she was my biggest driving force all the time. And I always say, you have to have a strong, deep reason. What's the meaning behind what you do, right? Because in those times of hardship, it's that reason why that's going to pull you forward.
Yeah.
I always say, when you land on your back, as long as you can look up, we can get up, but it's your reasons why that's going to pull you back up, right? So you have to know what that deep reason, it could be your family, it could be anything, but you have to know what it is. Like, for example, let's just say you don't have no motivation for your business, right? But then let's say there was a house on fire and your favorite pet was in that, right? Or somebody was in there, like, you jumping straight in, right? Fearlessly. So you attach that reason why to whatever you do, and then you always have more motivation that way. But anyway, back to when I left the Caribbean. Obviously, I came back to the UK. I done what I'm doing now. I just on the trajectory of the journey. Well, my mum came to visit me in COVID, right? Well, around the COVID time. So the airports just started to open up again. My mum was like, listen, Cordell, like I want to come in, see you. And I was thinking, COVID's still not, it's a little bit, she hasn't seen me in 2 years at this point. So she really wanted to come and visit me. And she came over, and unfortunately, she caught COVID while she was here on holiday. And she was only here for like 3 weeks, and she passed with COVID, right?
Oh, darling, I'm really sorry to hear that.
No underlying health problems. If you saw my mum, she's, she first went to the dance floor dressed, leopard shoes, leopard, very stylish lady.
Yeah.
We wouldn't think there was anything wrong. And
What was your mum's name?
her name was Abet Jeffers. Yeah, that was tough, man. That was tough because she was on a holiday. Imagine she came to my home. I had a nice house and stuff. I wanted to show her, Mum, look, I put this nice home in the countryside. Look at, come, I've got you. Like whenever you're here, and she come and spend some time with me in very happy spirits. And yeah, like she got sick and she passed. It was tough for her. And when I got told, and when I went to the hospital, they told me I had to put me and my brother in the room, and it was like, she's passed on the moon here. In that moment, gosh, it was tough, right? But I say that to say, even in that moment, because based on all the personal development that I've done, based on me always trying to ask myself flipping the script and asking my brain the questions, how does this serve me? What stroke can I find in this? I stacked benefits rather than just the drawbacks. I knew what the drawbacks were. What were some of the benefits that I could gain from the situation? And that's crazy. That's crazy to think, like, benefits of your mum dying. Like, why would you think like that, right? What I saw something there. I mean, what I saw in her was she now gets to see everything that I do from above, with each future round, for one. She's got VIP tickets, right?
Yeah.
Well, not just that. I get to share her truth and her legacy as well. She now lives through me, which is great. And I can share stories of her into these young people,
Yes.
So she continues to live on through me. And the last thing as well that I saw that I didn't realize is my mum always used to put me on a pedestal. Oh, God, how you doing, amazing? Look at you. Bang. And she never really used to speak much about herself. I knew she was doing good things.
Yeah.
But when she passed, honestly, my inbox got flooded from students around the Caribbean of people who she's
Really?
real testimonies, right?
Yeah.
And that just, it's got more purpose, more energy to go out there, knowing that she's just there, but in a different form, right? And my daughter I had my daughter 3 years ago, so just not long after she passed. And when I say she's a spitting image, like, honestly and truly, I wasn't too sure about it before, but that little girl is just the same as like my mum was, right? So I say that to say this a lot. Anything that you find missing in life, it will show in another form.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So nothing truly goes in a different form. And it's also important for us to also practice detachment as well. Understanding that things, are here and can go at any point, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be a person, an item, a business, right? But we just have to put in truth and everything and meaning with everything.
I'm working on that with my car. Friends say that I'm just got a bit of a attached to my car. And
Yeah.
So I don't have a name actually. I haven't gotten a name, but
Yeah.
just a little bit like my friend. She got in my car and she made herself a crumpet, and I was like, "You're not eating that in here. What do you mean? Or are you gonna have to eat that outside the car? Are you joking? No, I'm not." Yeah, so I've got a bit of an
Standards, right?
Yeah.
We are heading into the year of 2026. Chinese medicine is the year of the fire horse. I don't know if you're aware of this. Really? So this year we're just leaving the year of the snake, which means about shedding, releasing, letting go. So next year is about really stacking forward and taking charge. So what are you going to do? What's 2026 hold for you? What's your vision for this coming year?
I just want to continue what I've been doing and just more on a global scale, right? More international work, speaking and sharing my message in every part of the world possible. It was when I was in Poland doing the speech, it's like, oh, well, no one's going to understand me much, but they have translators, right?
Yeah.
So your message can go to anyone, right? So I want to share my message, but I also want to continue to help more people share theirs as well, right? That's what I do as a speaker. I speak on stages, but I also coach people how to speak on stages, right? And share their truth, because we need more thought leaders. We need more real people, authentic people with a message out there, real stories. Because like I said, your vibe will create your tribe, and your message, their message, right? Your message needs to go out there, right? So I want to help more people deliver that message into the world to help others.
I love that.
How?
You've inspired me.
Yeah.
You really have. Sitting here for this hour with you has really, really inspired me.
When you have conversations that light you up, you lose track of time.
You do.
See, so you've got to look at those things.
Yeah.
That got so perfect, right? There's perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. This. Thank you for inviting me. I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can do this again.
I would love. I've got so much more to talk to you about. I'm terrified of getting on the stage. I would love to do it, and I'm terrified of it.
You have such a great resonance in your voice as well. Like 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm scared. Kerry's the one that can get up on the stage, and I'm the one that's safe like this when I'm with people.
Well,
It's always come to the speakers club.
yeah, I'll give you as much guidance and support. I've actually got. I'm a coach for a TEDx coming up. So I know a TEDx
Yeah.
in 2022, which was life changing for me, because it definitely puts you on it's great for credibility.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So I'm a coach for the upcoming one, the 26th, June 26th. So I'll definitely be sharing it with you, because I feel like you guys can definitely hit that red carpet, right?
Do you know, I'm going to become a groupie, a Cordell groupie now. I'll be like, I'm here and I'm learning.
But I definitely want to see you ladies share your truth, because you got amazing thought-provoking messages. So
Thank you.
let's get it out to the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.